What's up, and welcome back to Voth Quality Creative.
Good job, girl! Woo!
I am planning on building a small deck for my son and daughter to have an area they can call their own. I'm getting a lot of help from my daughter gathering all the materials, but before we start, we need to play.
Hi, Navy! Silly girl. Woo!
After moving all of the wood to the backyard, I could start with cleanup, and I could also go through some toys while I was at it. To get a good gauge of the size of the deck, I went ahead and spray painted all of the edges as well as the corners. Once I decided on the size of the deck, I started cutting all the joists. I went with 2x4s for the joists since I didn't want to go overboard with structural integrity. And this deck is really only intended for light use. Adding some suntan lotion to really make sure I remember where my line is. I always like to add wood preserver anywhere I've made a cut and have exposed the raw wood. Now that all the joists are cut, I can lay out all the boards to assemble the frame. Although I went with 2x4s, I made sure to space them out every 12 inches. I also went through every 2x4 to find the crowns, making sure they were facing up. And I used a scrap piece of 2x4 to align everything while I secured it with deck screws. And then I can make marks for the placement of all the joists. I'm double checking all of the crowns to make sure they're facing the right way, and then securing them with more deck screws. Then I can move on to the other side with the same exact layout. Once the frame structure was complete, I could move it into place to really see how it was looking. Out the gate, the frame was entirely out of level. I found some more rogue pavers around my yard and started to level everything out. After cleaning them off, I could place them where I had removed some of the grass. Now that the front was level, onto the back. Using the level as reference, you can see that the back has to come up quite a bit. I leveled the ground to make sure the pavers had a nice bed to rest on. I put sand down and stacked 2 pavers, but even that wasn't enough. Luckily, I had an extra bag of gravel lying around. And this allowed everything to be level. Then I could do the same process to this corner. With everything level, I then went around the yard to find more bricks and pavers to support the middle of the frame. With everything aligned and ready to go, I could then put some weed barrier on the ground to make sure no weeds or foliage would come through the deck. Even after moving all the bricks and pavers, everything still remained level, so I could then add the deck boards. I needed to remove some of the old sand from our sandbox, and what better place to put it than under the deck. This also helped prevent the weed barrier from moving. And then I could put all the deck boards on top of the frame. I then gave a little bit of a sneak peek to my son and daughter. now their playhouse has a home.
Nice.
You happy? To secure the deck boards, I made a jig to drill pilot holes at a consistent spacing. And after drilling a ton of pilot holes, I could come back with a countersink, so the heads of the screws would be flush with the boards. I used a scrap piece of wood that was about 1/8 of an inch thick to space the boards evenly. I secured both ends of the boards before securing them in the middle. Some of these boards had a really severe bow, so I had to persuade them into place a little bit. This spacer really helped to make sure that everything was a consistent spacing. Hey!
Mine.
Your mini? Yeah. Or your deck. I kept reusing the 1/8 inch spacers throughout the build to make sure the spacing of the boards was consistent. I also dismantled the jig and used my level to make sure that all the pilot holes that I was drilling was a consistent spacing as well. I moved down from one side to the other. And I think these two couldn't wait for the deck to be finished, so they had to keep testing it out as I was building.
Apple?
You show them your food?
Wings growing on my back, and the bliss that I feel when I think back and I check myself in the mirror now. Wrinkles next to my eyes, laughing without a doubt.
After putting the deck through its paces and making sure all the deck boards were secured, it was time to get it ready and prepped for finish. But I could do that another day. After letting the kids play on the deck for a little bit longer, a few days later I came back out and got it prepped and ready for finish. While sanding, I was able to remove any imperfection and discoloration. Then I came back with a blower to remove any leftover dust before applying finish. For the finish, I'm just using a clear wood sealer so that the deck will naturally turn gray over time. The application process was really simple. I just applied one thin layer and let it dry, and I was pretty much done. And the ladies kept checking on me. After applying finish to the other side of the deck, this portion of the deck was complete. And here's a little sneak peek for the next section of the deck. I'm definitely glad I applied finish when I did, because a few days later we had rain in the forecast. Thanks for watching.